report on NewsX. Well, let's take a look at the top headlines of this hour. The United States and India have agreed on a trade deal after a phone call between President Trump and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The US will lower tariffs on Indian imports to 18%, while India agrees to reduce tariffs and non-tariff barriers on US goods to zero and stop buying Russian oil. President Donald Trump has warned that bad things could follow if Iran fails to reach a deal with the US, as pressure mounts after Tehran's January protest crackdown. Former US President Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton have agreed to testify in a congressional investigation into Jeffrey Epstein. Days before a planned vote on holding them in contempt, the couple deny wrongdoing and say they've already shared all they know. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer said engagement with China makes us stronger following his visit, but stressed the UK is clear-eyed about security threats from Beijing and that protecting national security is non-negotiable. The European Union, headed by Anna Pears, head of the Middle East and North Africa Bilateral Instruments Unit for Syria and the Middle East, held talks with the Syrian director of the International Cooperation Department at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs Expatriates, Qutaiba Kaddish, as they explored ways to expand cooperation. Nigeria's armed forces said on Sunday that a key commander of the Islamist organization Boko Haram was killed in a night raid by the armed forces in Borno State. Abu Khalid was one of the key figures in the Islamist terrorist group Boko Haram, which operates mainly in Nigeria's north. Nigerian prosecutors have filed 57 terrorism-related charges against 9 suspects over the June 13 last year Yelwata massacre in Benue State that has killed about 150 people. OpenAI has explored alternatives to NVIDIA's AI chips, citing speed limits in inference tasks like coding, while NVIDIA remains dominant in training chips. The move could test its AI leadership as talks between two companies continue. Now we start with India. In a major development, the long-anticipated US-India trade deal was finalized late Monday night. US President Donald Trump has made the announcement himself after a call with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, stressing the personal diplomacy behind the deal. As per what President Trump posted on his Truth Social, the trade agreement slashes US tariffs on Indian goods from 50% to 18%. In return, India has agreed to halt its Russian oil purchases and lower trade barriers, making US oil as well as potentially Venezuelan oil its new source. The deal also lifts 25% tariff imposed by the US on Indian imports due to its Russian oil purchases, giving a significant boost to Indian stocks, with companies like Infosys, Wipro and HDFC Bank reportedly seeing gains. President Trump has further announced that India would buy over $500 billion in US energy, technology and agricultural products, while also committing to reduce tariffs on US goods to zero. On the other hand, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has quickly responded on social media X, calling the call with President Trump wonderful and thanking the US President on behalf of 1.4 billion Indians for reducing the tariffs. Prime Minister Modi has also welcomed the closer economic ties, noting that the deal will help boost manufacturing and innovation in India. Now for this, we welcome Mr. David K. Johnston. He's an American financial journalist and author, joins us live from New York. Thank you very much, Mr. Johnston, for joining us again. Good to see you. Now looking at this, how significant is this deal? And to me, it seems like it came out of blue, this news.
Well, if there is really a deal here at all, normally trade deals are negotiated. There's long documents that are gone over paragraph by clause. This is a telephone call. And keep in mind that under the American Constitution, Donald Trump has zero authority outside of some very minor emergency actions to impose tariffs. The U.S. Constitution makes tariffs the sole province of Congress, and Congress in a few minor areas have given some temporary power for tariffs. Trump has simply seized that. He claims, that the American Constitution says I can do anything I want, which it says nothing of the sort. So this deal may or may not last. And let's also not lose sight of the fact that the average American tariff on goods from India a little over a year ago was 2.5%, with many things like electronics below 0.5%. So 18% is still an enormous burden. And by the way, everybody who is paying these tariffs when goods arrive in the US is also filing for refunds. And the US Supreme Court is expected to decide very soon whether the US Constitution says what it says, which is Trump has no authority here to impose these tariffs.
Right. Thank you for highlighting that. And, Mr. Johnson, as we know, Mr. Gore, the close ally or close person for President Trump, has been in India now as an ambassador. So do you think that played a role in this?
Well, clearly Trump has interests here in how this plays out. And of course, India very clearly does, because India is the victim of Donald Trump's mercurial behavior and his claims of powers he doesn't have. I think the most interesting part of this deal is, did India really agree not to buy any Russian oil? Because the Russian oil has been purchased at a significant discount to world prices, and that's been a huge benefit to India.
Right. And so you're saying that we do not know for sure, since they haven't, released any papers or official documents, and both of them weren't even here to start with. So you're not sure about this trade deal. That's what you're saying.
No, and by the way, some of the news accounts I've read tonight from my former employer, the New York Times, from other American news agencies, are similarly skeptical about the substance of this. It's important to keep in mind that Donald, whom I've covered longer than anybody else, almost 40 years, has a long history of saying something and then literally within a minute saying, I never said that. And so that this was a phone call between Modi and Trump does not give me a lot of assurance that there's real substance here or that won't change.
Right. Thank you for highlighting that. We will be eyeing that. Please stay with us as we come back to you for our next discussion as well. Now, moving on to former U.S. President Bill Clinton and his wife, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, have agreed to testify in a congressional investigation into the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The move comes just days before a planned House vote on whether to hold the couple in criminal contempt or refusing to appear after months of negotiations. The Republican-led House Oversight Committee has approved contempt measures last month with some Democratic support. A Clinton spokesperson says the couple will comply after previously submitting sworn statements and limited information about Epstein. Now, former President Bill Clinton has denied any knowledge of Epstein's crimes and says he cut ties more than 20 years ago, despite records showing he flew on Epstein's jet in the early 2000s. Now for this, we welcome back Mr. David K. Johnston. He joins us live from New York. Thank you very much, Mr. Johnston, for staying with us. Now, looking at the background or the change of mind in the Clintons, what do you think led to this?
Well, I think the Clintons have handled this very badly. Their very early position when they were asked to testify was, we'll testify in open. And the Republicans in the House said, no, we want you to testify behind closed doors, which carries with it a sort of implication that there's something unsavory going on. Then they announced they weren't going to testify at all. Lawyers and politicians pointed out to them they could be held in contempt of Congress and convicted probably of that if they held to that stance. So now they've said, okay, we'll testify behind closed doors. This has been just badly managed by the Clintons. And the important thing to keep in mind is that Jeffrey Epstein, who was an extortionist, he would get various men into compromising positions and then get them, extract from them enormous amounts of money to protect them. Surrounds himself, as con artists do, and I've exposed many con artists, some of whom have gone to prison after I exposed them. They surround themselves with people they think will make them appear invincible. So having the former President Bill Clinton in a photo with Epstein signals to some people, well, don't mess with this guy, he's connected, he's invincible. But there's no indication that Clinton did anything illegal, certainly not Hillary Clinton. And that's why I think the Clintons handled this badly. They should have said, we're happy to testify in the open.
Right. So, so do you think Republicans will be using this against them? What scenarios can we expect now?
Well, the Republicans have always been very troubled by both Bill and Hillary Clinton because of their appeal and the issues that they've promoted. They have gone to great lengths to try and dirty up the character of these two, and Bill and Hillary Clinton have done things that have made themselves vulnerable to attacks. But remember also that the Republicans are trying very hard right now to divert attention from two things. One of them is the U.S. economy, which since Trump returned to office has been in decline, except for the stock market, which keeps going up and up despite profits not going up and up. And secondly, the Epstein files themselves. They want to divert attention from Donald Trump, who is all over the Epstein files, and who has been credibly accused under oath in court papers by women who say that when they were 13 and 14 years old, Donald Trump raped them. Now, Trump says that didn't happen. We don't have any proof of that. What we do have is a lot of smoke. And by not releasing half of the Epstein files and saying we're not going to release any more of them, despite a law Trump signed that they're all to be released, that simply adds to the suspicion of people, including many of Trump's MAGA supporters, that he is hiding and covering up because he's vulnerable.
Right. Thank you for highlighting that. And also, since you're the best person to judge Trump's psychology, I think this is what I wanted to ask you. Does Trump also feel intimidated by the Clintons? Do you think he will try his best to, use this against them?
Oh, Donald will use anything at hand to go after anybody, and without regard to whether he has done the very things he accuses other people of. He does that all the time. The Clintons are a convenient whipping boy for him, and Trump needs very much right now to divert attention as best he can from himself, from the performance of the American economy, and from what's happening with his goon squads who are arresting people, including American citizens who've been forcibly removed from the country. Every day now we are having enormous demonstrations, bigger than in the Vietnam anti-war demonstrations, against what's going on with the Trump administration. So Donald is when he's cornered very fairly, has a powerful instinct for self-preservation, and whether it's fight or flee, I've seen this many times in his career. So the Clintons make for a convenient way for him to try and divert attention from his own shortcomings and lay onto the Clintons. And the people who support Donald Trump, the so-called MAGA crowd, they detest the Clintons on every level, not the least because Mrs. Clinton is not a stay-at-home barefoot and pregnant housewife.
And how do you, since you've already shared your analysis on how Bill and Hillary Clinton have handled this situation, and they could have done better. How do you analyze Trump handling this from your analysis? Is he all cornered? Now, what's his, fight or flee plan? Yes.
Donald, whom I've called the greatest con artist in the history of the world, he conned his way all the way to the White House. I think he's done a very successful job of diverting attention away from things he doesn't want Americans to be thinking about, he doesn't want to have be in the news. And he's really good at that. He's really good at understanding what will have a visceral impact on people and what can be simply captured by television news and directing where the news will go. I mean, in a very perverse way, I admire Donald's skill as a con artist. He's just, I've never known anybody in his league as a con artist, and I've known so many con artists over the last 60 years.
Thank you very much for sharing that. Always great learning from you. Thank you very much. Now we move on to Europe. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has said that engagement makes UK stronger after his visit to China. Prime Minister Keir Starmer has added that the government is clear-eyed about the threats from China on national security, and protecting UK's national security is non-negotiable. He has also said that UK is clear-eyed about the threats coming in from China in that regard and will never waver its efforts to keep British people safe. Meanwhile, Starmer and leader of the opposition British Conservative Party, Kemi Badenoch, has responded. Let's listen into what they have shared.
Agreed to work together in some key areas of law enforcement. Last year, around 60% of all small boat engines used by smuggling gangs came from China. So we struck a border security pact to enable joint law enforcement action to disrupt that supply at source. We also agreed to scale up removals of those with no right to be in the United Kingdom and to work together to crack down on the supply of synthetic opioids.
With the Chagos Islands, the Prime Minister has been played. China is about to build an enormous spy hub in the centre of London, a ransom he had to pay before he could even get on the plane.
Now for this discussion, we welcome Dr. Sanjay Kumar. He's a journalist of the Korea Herald, joins us live from Seoul. Thank you very much, Dr. Kumar, for joining us again. Good to see you. Now looking at, Keir Starmer, I don't exactly know where he stands. His actions say something else. Him saying something else. Can he balance this China-UK thing?
Asuma, we cannot conclude that he would be balancing the relationship between London and Beijing. But one thing is for sure, that this entire approach is very recalibrated kind of engagement. So in one word, we can say that it is a recalibrated engagement which is happening after almost 8 years of relationship that went into limbo.
Yes. So, do you think he has any plans to gain his voters back? Or, as we know that his popularity is crumbling back home. So now that he's gone to China with a big delegation and got some deals, and now he comes back to, and also he got, he approved the building of biggest Chinese embassy in London, which is, the location is also very, very critical. What do you think about this? Do you think that he has any backup plan to kind of gain votes back?
Yes, he has a valid point, and I strongly support this view, because Beijing had not been seeing London as existential threat, and likewise London has never clarified their stand on Beijing, seeing it as an existential threat. So from that perspective, this entire rebalancing of diplomacy can be seen as a response, I think, passive response to President Trump's aggressive policies and the uncertainties that is being caused by President Trump. EU already had been trying to make some moves to make the entire world, at least the entire region of Europe, from uncertain to certain. And that is why I think this engagement signals some positive aspects as well. If you see that after this 8 years of this alignment, this engagement is going to bring some very positive outcomes, because there are some visa access discussions ongoing with the Beijing, and some trade relaxations as well. So I think the Prime Minister will have some things to tell to people back in London, because we must not forget here that London is also facing some uncertainties. So I think there are some strong background in this entire PR exercise, we should say. We should not jump to conclusion that both the countries are going to conclude some things, but it is a kind of PR exercise through which both the parties, I mean both the countries, are ready to send some positive signals. And especially from London's perspective, this is not a new thing right now. It is a very obvious thing. So calibrated realism seems to be working out here. And of course, there would be some sort of active, we should say, criticism from the opposition party in London, but that looks justifiable from the ruling party side.
Great. So with both Starmer and Conservative leader Badenoch responding to this visit, how different are these views or approaches to China right now among them?
See, there is a division because, China has not been a natural ally of UK. So it is very likely that there will be, opposition and criticism as well. But the key question is, if not now, then when? That is also, because the ruling party also has a responsibility to respond to the uncertainties which is being caused. And if you see the EU's decision recently, they had been coming up with some solutions and some strategies. So in a way, I think the British Prime Minister is trying to send a signal that look, we are engaged in some strategy to balance the relationship and balance the dependency on US. And China, I think, is not a good friend for UK, but they can be a reliable friend, at least in current circumstances, when it comes to maintain the supply chain issues and also the economic aspects.
Right. So couldn't UK look at India like that? For as they in this uncertain times they look for solution and strategy. Which other country could have been instead of China?
Instead of China, India, of course, India has been a long-term partner, and UK-India relationship has been very natural. And if British Prime Minister tries to engage with India, there won't be any criticism that he's facing right now. So if you cannot compare apples with oranges. I'm not saying that China is cannot be a partner. It can be a partner. It is, but based on the democratic principles of Europe, and especially the democratic legacy of UK with India and the relationship it has, despite all the disagreements, UK-India relationship has been ironclad, and many things had been in the linchpin. So we cannot compare Chinese relationship with India when it comes to UK. India is a natural partner. So instead of just looking towards India, from UK perspective, UK should not just look, but activate and expand, deepen the relationship. That kind of messaging would work. And I think if UK does something in this direction, that would be very helpful to the ruling party, and even opposition party in UK will not be opposing with this intensity that we are seeing in case of China.
Yes, 100% I agree. Thank you very much, Dr. Sanjay Kumar, for joining us today and sharing that insight with us. Now, moving on to our next news, to U.S. Democrat Christian Menefee has been sworn into the U.S. House of Representatives, further narrowing the Republican majority in the chamber. Menefee, a 37-year-old former Harris County attorney, won a runoff election to represent Texas' 18th Congressional District, a safety Democratic seat covering much of inner-city Houston and nearby areas. He has defeated fellow Democrat Amanda Edwards, a former Houston City Council member. With Menifee taking office, Republicans now hold 218 to 214 majority in the House. These seats remain vacant in Georgia, New Jersey, and California, with special elections scheduled in the coming months. The swearing-in also renews attention on past criticism of House leadership over delays in seating elected members. Now we move on to our tech news. OpenAI is reportedly exploring alternatives to some of NVIDIA's latest artificial intelligence chips, a move that could complicate the relationship between two of the most prominent names in the AI boom. Sources say the shift is driven by a growing focus on inference, the process that allows AI models like ChatGPT to respond to user queries quickly and efficiently. While NVIDIA remains the leader in chips used to train large AI models, inference has emerged as a new front in the competition. OpenAI has held talks with AMD and startups such as Cerebras and Grok as it seeks faster performance for tasks like software development and AI-to-AI communication. NVIDIA and OpenAI both say they continue to work closely together, even as the chipmaker moves to adopt its technology for the next phase of AI growth. That's all we have time for. Keep watching NewsX World for more news updates from around the world.